50 years ago, Joseph Madison Scoop Jones and Sonny LaCroix founded New Orleans Data News Weekly. The newspaper began as a modest niche paper that recognized black entertainers in New Orleans. In its second generation of ownership, the paper expanded its writing to include African Americans in politics, in the community, and in the nation. Through its community-centered endeavors, Data News Weekly became known as the People's Paper. Today, New Orleans Data News Weekly has a print circulation reach of 75,000 readers. Additionally, the paper is also undergoing plans to expand its online-centered coverage. In its future, Data News Weekly will continue to pioneer and produce African American-centered news.
Well, I guess when you ask the question of the impact of Data News Weekly in the community, I have to only speak from the last 30 years or so. My grandfather, as the stories as a child of how and why he started this newspaper, was always impactful. I always felt the true community give back theme that my grandfather envisioned.
Well, on behalf of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, as president and CEO, I get a perspective of the unique characteristics of all of the 209 African American owned newspapers that comprise the membership of the NNPA. And I have to say that the New Orleans Data News is an iconic, well-valued, well-respected newspaper.
So the experience that I first had with working with Data News Weekly was one that allowed me to explore issues that are important to the community that do not get to get regular coverage and be featured in our mainstream media. And this is something that I have taken on with me as a purpose and objective now that I have come back to a historically black university, Xavier, here in New Orleans, and I teach students journalism and working in the media.
I think that what's important with data, what's important, how we could participate in the growth and development of the African American in New Orleans. And that started from highlighting artists that were not recognized anywhere else. I mean, Fats Domino, Alan Toussaint, all those guys were not recognized. So that was a need. There was a need in the community to create a vehicle for that. As we went along and became more and more popular, politics came into play. And we thought there was a need for us to express our views and our opinions on who we thought were the better of the worst leaders. Those are things that vehicles are, again, recognizing unsung heroes, people who are not normally recognized, and then maybe do something for their lives.
So for me, the impact of Data News Weekly over 50 years is seeing Betsy, it's seeing Katrina, it's seeing good times, seeing bad, it's seeing the newspaper business take a dive, and that we're still here. So for me, the impact is the fact that just like this community doesn't give up and is resilient, so is the newspaper that represents it.
I think Data News in the future, as we grow, we're going to have a longevity on the street, basically because directional papers for directional marketing, we're directionally marketed for African American people. So our flavor of what we write and the flavor of what we do, I think will remain important, not only in the older generation, but the middle generation and the younger generation to some extent. But that growth is a growth that's really exciting because it's not just a New Orleans growth market. I think that overall, around the country, around the world, they'll all be looking at things that are very important and things that are unique. If we put some of the New Orleans culture intermingled with the news and entertainment, I think we have a vehicle that will bring in people of all ages and even races.